Well, good morning, everyone. Have you enjoyed the song so far? Yeah. I have to realize I appreciate Lynn and your harmony on that song. And John, I realize that you could have played along on the guitar after I did that. So next time we'll have you up front and center. We miss you when you're not here. Miss all of you when you're not here. And you all have a special place and position. You know what I'm saying? Right here in this spiritual center. So I want to wish all the mothers in the audience a happy Mother's Day. And Mother's Day is an American holiday. It was first celebrated back in 1908 in West Virginia when a woman named Anna Jarvis held a memorial for her own mother. And Anna's mission became to create a day, set aside a day to honor all mothers. In her words, the person who has done more for you than anyone in the world. The person who has done more for you than anyone in the world. So we celebrate that this morning. It's those early childhood years, those years up to 8 years of age, that are very critical in our cognitive, our emotional, our social, and physical development. Our newly developing brains are highly plastic and responsive as billions of neural circuits are being established through the integration of genetics, environment, and experience. Think of all the experiences you had in those first 8 years of your life. And all that goes together to make us who we are, to create so we know how we think about ourselves and what we think about life. And we learn how to feel about ourselves and how we feel about those around us and those situations around us. So really, we learn how to be, or who we are and how we think and how we feel, by our responses and reactions to those things and those people around us. So in many ways, in the first 8 years of our lives, our conditions are creating our reality. And then as adults, we might continue into that belief, and perhaps we might have the tendency to try to recreate those experiences and those environments that support those early beliefs and thoughts about life. But perhaps our lives intersect with a new thought. Maybe we read a book, or we meet someone, or we land on a website, or we turn on a TV show like I did many years ago, or we happen to walk in the doors of a Unity Center like this one, and we hear something to the effect of the third fundamental principle of unity that says we are co-creators with God, creating our reality through thoughts held in mind, and we say, what? Or we hear an affirmation that says, I have the power to create my world, and we think, what? And it messes with our belief system. It just rocks our world. But as we open to this truth, then we learn that it's not our conditions that create our reality. It's our consciousness that creates our reality. And we learn that rather than being beholden to perpetuate the sins of the fathers, if you will, rather than being held captive by our genetics or our past experiences or our past environment, that we have the ability to create our world, that our point of power is always in the present moment. So it matters not our experiences of the past. That's over and done with. It's gone. We can release that and let it go. We can forgive those that need to be forgiven, knowing that they were doing the best they could with the light that they had at the time. And realizing that the past has no power over us and that our point of power is always in the present moment. What matters most are the vibrational energies that you and I are choosing to express through our thoughts and our feelings and our beliefs and our attitudes and our actions. We really do have the power to create our world. But that takes courage to step into that truth, to open to that truth, and then to embody it and to express it in our everyday lives. I'm reminded of a quote by the poet E.E. Cummings, who said, "It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are." And you and I are growing up, not so much physically, although we are regenerating ourselves at a higher vibratory rate as we share this spiritual journey together, but we're growing up spiritually, learning and becoming who we really are. We're growing into spiritual maturity. So Mother's Day gives us the opportunity to consider some of the attributes of motherhood. Attributes like love and compassion, patience and persistence and encouragement and support. And all those things could be called the more feminine or inwardly directed energies or attributes of life. And since all creation comes from within, this feminine aspect of ourselves could be called the matrix of creation or the medium of creation. And reconnecting with this matrix of creation at the core of our being, we come into alignment with the sacredness of life. You know, in our highly charged information age that we live in, that seems to undervalue that which comes from within. As we go within to the core of our being, realizing the sacredness of life, the wisdom of the feminine calls us to be receptive, to wait, to listen to that still small voice within us. It's there where we discover that life, the Great Mother, is within us, supporting us, sustaining us, sharing her wisdom with us, aware of our heartbeat and the rhythm of our breaths, nurturing us and encouraging us and telling us all that we need to know because we are her children. The Great Mother within. Not a common way of talking about the innermost God. In Hinduism, it's referred to as Shakti, the feminine principle of life. In the Kabbalah, it's referred to as Shekinah. Shekinah is depicted as a beautiful being of light, emanating the maternal instincts of love and compassion in all of its forms. So what we're really talking about this morning is nurturance. Because as adults, our nurturance doesn't come from the womb anymore. It doesn't come from our outer experiences. It doesn't come from our authority figures or our parental figures. It doesn't come from our doctor or our banker or our guru. No, nurturance comes from within. So the question that we can ask ourselves this Mother's Day morning is, am I nurturing myself? Am I creating experiences in which I feel safe and supported? Am I creating environments in which I feel loved and celebrated? Are you nurturing yourself through your thoughts, through your words, through the words you speak to others, through your self-talk? That's a biggie. Are you nurturing yourself through your attitudes and your beliefs and your actions? Are you loving yourself like the child of God, Mother, Father, God, that you really are. So what it comes down to on this Mother's Day morning is you becoming the person that does more for you than anyone in the world. And that means giving yourself full attention. Full attention. Not to your external self, not to the outer world of me. There are plenty of things that keep our attention on the outer world of me, aren't there? It means giving yourself full attention to the inner self, the inner essence of who you really are and what you're here to do. Going within, nurturing yourself, spending time with yourself, getting to know yourself, then you find out who you really are and what your purpose is and how it expresses uniquely through and as you. Going within. How else do you think Charles Fillmore came up with the 12 powers? By looking out at the world around him? By looking at the situations in the world and human behavior? No. By reading the newspaper? No. By turning on the TV to keep abreast of the political situation? No. He went within. Connecting with that matrix of creation, where all creation comes from, at the core of our being. Going within. Consciously, consistently, committedly, connecting with that matrix of creation within. Charles Fillmore was an amazing spiritual teacher. He's often been called, Charles Fillmore, the founder of the Unity Movement, has often been called an American mystic. And what he realized is that inherent in all people are 12 fundamental spiritual faculties. One of these spiritual powers is called wisdom, and we began talking about it last week. Here's what Charles Fillmore had to say about wisdom. Intuition, judgment, wisdom, justice, discernment, pure knowing, love that, and profound understanding, that's cool, are natural to man. All these qualities and many more belong to every one of us. Just pause for a moment and think about how radical, how revolutionary that is to say that wisdom is natural to us. That wisdom isn't something that we search for or seek after that's outside of ourselves. Wisdom is within us. And remember, Charles Fillmore wrote The 12 Powers of Man in 1930. And as I shared with you last week, in 2009, researchers right over in San Diego found that in the prefrontal cortex of our brain that there are 4 systems that when they are working harmoniously in balance, they produce the attributes of wisdom. 79 years later, wisdom is within us. Well, each of these 12 powers in every person can be used in 2 different ways, of course. They can be asleep, they can be awake. They can be used according to an ego personality, the sense consciousness, or they can be used in a more elevated consciousness, a spiritual understanding. So what we're talking about when we're talking about wisdom, we're not talking about wisdom that comes with age. We're talking about an inherent wisdom, wisdom that's within you right now, right here, accessible to you, regardless of your age. We're not talking about wisdom that's reached through experience, worldly experience. No, we're talking about an ability that's within you right now, that's accessible to guide you in all of your decisions. No longer letting the collective consciousness or the consensus of the crowd dictate your decisions and movements and having an influence over you, but rather directing your own inner intuition so that you can receive answers to problems that are based on divine truth. That's like having a flashlight, a giant flashlight of divine wisdom shining on your path every step that you take, helping you to evaluate situations and people in a more enlightened state of consciousness, maintaining a higher objectivity to yourself and to the world, and resulting in reaching in conclusions that are safe and spirit-filled. How's that sound? Pretty powerful, huh? So, how do we begin to use this power of wisdom in a more elevated level of consciousness? Well, probably one of the most important subjects that Unity teaches is that of the silence. And the silence is often referred to as a prayer, but more accurately, it's an attitude or attention, or the place where we dwell when we enter into meditation. The silence isn't an intellectual silence, concentrating on the thinking. No, it's a state of consciousness we enter into in order to put ourselves in a position of listening to that still small voice. So the silence isn't a process of demonstration. Rather, it's a state of realization. We're not looking for forms or things or even experiences or sensations. No, we go within and see with the inner eye that which is eternal and has always been. So first of all, in order to access this power of wisdom, we go within. We enter into the silence. And as I shared with you last week, Charles Fillmore associated the power of wisdom with the solar plexus. And as we talked about last week, maybe you've experienced a different kind of feeling in the solar plexus. Maybe you've experienced fear. Fear ever get a hold of you right in the pit of your stomach? But what's the opposite of fear? Perfect love. And if you're feeling that love and that fear, if you're gripped, if you're just paralyzed with that illusion of fear, you want to go within, gently place your attention on the solar plexus and affirm, perfect love, cast out all fear. And what is perfect love? Or who is perfect love, if you feel more comfortable with that? We affirm it all the time. This one that is all is perfect love. God, whatever you want to call it, perfect love, casts out all fear. So affirm that consciously, consistently, and committedly until the fear disappears and perfect love appears. So, in order to call forth this inner faculty of wisdom, we enter into the silence, place our attention on the solar plexus, and we affirm the wisdom of God expresses in all I think, say, and do. You want to say that? The wisdom of God expresses in all I think, say, and do. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's go within and give you an opportunity to work with this technique. So if you want to become comfortable, I always like to put both feet on the floor, just a feeling of groundedness. And we always enter into this place remembering the truth about ourselves And possibly the truth is expanding right now this morning for some of you as you consider that God is all there is. That we are co-creators with God, creating through thoughts held in mind. Maybe you can feel yourself opening up to that. Another truth that perfect love casts out all fear. And if you're feeling any fear, just place your attention on that solar plexus gently and silently affirm, perfect love cast out all fear. Perfect love cast out all fear. And now, in order to establish wisdom and perfect love, just gently bring your attention to the solar plexus and silently affirm, the wisdom of God expresses in all that I think, all that I say, all that I do. There are no more warring, contentious thoughts or feelings in me, for the peace of God is here established with wisdom and love. The wisdom of God expresses through me in all that I think, all that I say, all that I do. The wisdom of God expresses through me in all that I think, all that I say, and all that I do. I breathe it in. I feel the truth of this. I open to this expressing in my life. I release and I allow a greater expression of wisdom right here and right now. And when you're ready, you can take a deep breath and come back to the room. Open your eyes, recharged, reconnected, stronger, wiser. Good. How are you doing? Different?